It is difficult to even begin to articulate the sheer, unadulterated disappointment that permeated Old Trafford and has since swept across the fanbase following that 0-1 defeat to Everton. This was not a minor setback. It was a performance so devoid of character, so tactically impoverished, and so utterly humiliating that it stands out immediately as the undisputed worst display of the entire Amorim tenure. The expectation going into this game was clear. A comfortable win, a statement of intent, and a solidification of the 5-match unbeaten run that had started to whisper hopes of momentum. Instead, what we witnessed was a catastrophic, self-inflicted wound that proved yet again that this team simply cannot handle the pressure of expectation, particularly when a seemingly straightforward victory is on the line. The conversation has now swung violently from 5 unbeaten to the stark reality that we have failed to secure a win in the last 3 outings. A psychological shift so rapid it is genuinely alarming and points to a deep-seated fragility within the squad's mental fortitude. No, the most damning element of this entire tragic affair is the context, playing against a 10-man Everton side for the overwhelming majority of the match. For 75 minutes, we possessed a numerical advantage, a luxury in Premier League football that should be converted into a dominant victory 9 times out of 10. Yet, in a truly bizarre reversal, Manchester United managed to turn this advantage into a profound handicap. Everton, to their credit, adapted brilliantly, immediately settling into a compact, disciplined, deep block, a 4-4 shape with Barry left isolated up top, and proved themselves to be utterly fantastic at defending the edge of their own box. The moment that mad red card was shown, the dynamic shifted, but instead of unlocking the game with pace and intelligent movement, United became frozen, paralysed by the sudden need for creative solutions against a stubborn, low-sitting opponent. It was a failure of imagination, a failure of tempo, and ultimately, a collective failure to overcome a challenge that is fundamental to any top-tier side's repertoire. The tactical missteps from the manager, Ruben Amorim, must be scrutinised, and the performance from the players themselves was unforgivable. One of the most glaring errors was the management of Ahmad. He has consistently proven to be the single biggest attacking threat down the right-hand side, where his connection with Mbeumo provides width, pace, and incision. Yet, the starting 11 saw him deployed as the left-sided number 10, a position that rendered him completely ineffective, especially given that Dorgu on the left wing-back was virtually non-existent in the attack. By moving Ahmad away from his zone of maximum impact, Amorim neutralised the one area of the pitch that was consistently causing trouble for opponents. This decision, seemingly made to accommodate a specific structure, led to United being easily doubled up on by the Everton defence after the sending off, effectively nullifying any threat he did try to conjure. The team became one-dimensional, and the predictability was crushing to watch. Following the initial error in setup, the substitutions compounded the problem, cementing the performance as one defined by tragic managerial choices. The decision to bring on Delot at left wing-back, when United needed a radical injection of attacking drive and wit from that position, was truly baffling. It was an almost suicidal move for the flow of the game, one that Gary Neville rightly pointed out numerous times during the broadcast. Looking at the bench, there were options, perhaps shifting Shaw higher and bringing on Martinez, assuming he was fit enough for a controlled appearance against 10 men. But the choice of Delot felt risk-averse and backward-looking. What was the manager trying to achieve? And it signalled a defensive mindset at a time when only bold, offensive changes could break the deadlock. If you are playing against 10 men and the problem is a lack of penetration, the solution is not to introduce a player that offers less threat than the one they are replacing. This single moment epitomised the team's collective lack of belief and attacking bravery. The fundamental cancer in this performance was the overwhelming air of risk aversion that settled over the defence, particularly Euro and Shaw, who played as the 2 outside centre-backs in the back 3. Every single pass from these 2 players felt either sideways or, more often than not, backward. Sure, there was no intent to progress the ball quickly, no urgency to play line-breaking passes, and no attempt from Shaw in particular to make the aggressive, overlapping run that would stretch the 4-man defensive line of Everton. Everton were happy to concede the ball to these players 20 yards outside their own box because they knew, with absolute certainty, that they posed no genuine attacking threat. They were given all the time in the world on the ball, and they chose to do nothing meaningful with it. The tempo of the passing was so glacial, a generous 5 out of 10, that it allowed Everton's midfield and defence ample time to shift and reorganise without ever being truly stretched or panicked. This ambled football was a gift to a side looking to see out a result with 10 men. This lack of forward impetus was not isolated to the defence. It extended up through the spine of the team. Xerxes, the main striker, struggled throughout the game. There were moments where the ball simply bounced off him, reminiscent of the frustration felt last season, where the link-up play with the centre-forward was non-existent. While he forced a cracking save from Pickford toward the end, for large segments of the match, he was ineffective at holding up play or winning the first or second ball, which is inexcusable when the lone striker from the opposition, Barry, was winning headers despite being surrounded by multiple United defenders. How can a defensive unit with an effective 3-4-5-1 numerical advantage in the centre of the park still lose the fundamental aerial duels and second balls? The inability to establish control and dominance in these basic areas meant United could never sustain pressure, giving Everton easy outlets and chances to regroup. As time wound down, the tactical plan disintegrated entirely, culminating in the pathetic, desperate tactic of spamming hopeful crosses into the box. This was truly the final straw, an echo of the most frustrating, caveman football tactics that plagued the club under David Moyes, the last manager, ironically, to lose to Everton at Old Trafford. But who was in the box to attack these crosses? A 4'3" Mason Mount or a 4'1" Ahmad at the back post? There was no aerial presence, no target man, and no intelligent cutbacks or ground passes. It was the definition of self-sabotage, throwing high balls into a congested box against a team that was comfortable defending deep. This was not attacking. It was waving a white flag and hoping for a miraculous, unplanned bounce. This collapse under pressure is a pattern, not an anomaly. We saw the frustration in the 2-2 draw with Forest and the complete reversal of fortune against Spurs, where a dominant 75-minute performance was thrown away, requiring a last-minute equaliser just to save face. But this loss to Everton, a loss at home against 10 men, in a game that was identified as a golden opportunity to climb the table, this is a new low. It is straight up embarrassing. Not only did we lose, but there were periods in the second half where Everton, with their single man up front, still looked more dangerous going forward on the counter than our entire attack. The team showed no courage, no drive, and no collective desire to force the issue. The boos that rained down from the Old Trafford faithful were absolutely deserved, an audible expression of the disgust felt by everyone who watched that spineless display. This performance was an utter tragedy, a risk-averse capitulation in the face of a challenge that should have been brushed aside. It is, without a doubt, the worst result and worst performance we have seen from Manchester United under Ruben Amorim, given the sheer magnitude of the self-inflicted damage and the humiliating circumstances of the defeats.